Hi guys, welcome to part 3 on my series on obesity. So I hope you've watched part 1 and 2 and that'll help make a lot of sense around part 3. And I do want to remind you to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you like it, okay? Please support me, I'm new here. I have a lot of knowledge that I want to share and I need your support, please. Thank you. In part 3, we're going to talk about how do you reduce insulin in your body. So we covered in the last part that insulin triggers your body to store fat, okay? So now how do we reduce the fat storage mechanism? And so the basic fundamental is if insulin triggers the body to store fat, you want to reduce insulin. I'm going to cover this through the method of insulin resistance. Some of you may argue that that's not the only way, but I'm going to try and watch the whole video and see if you've got any questions left. Shoot it in comments. What is insulin resistance? So let me explain. So insulin resistance, some formats are drug resistance. So certain times a bacteria through repeated exposure gets immune to a drug. Okay, so that is called drug resistance. Similarly, we have antibiotic resistance, and that, for example, happens with people that have been exposed to a lot of antibiotics but not the full course. For example, in tuberculosis, why it's very important to do the full course, and generally in antibiotics, why it's important to do the full course. Similarly, people who do a certain kind of drug, they need more and more of it to get the same high, right? So insulin resistance works the same way. The more you have in your body, the more you need to get the same work done. And if you can reduce your insulin resistance, so if you can reduce all the resistance, then you will need less insulin to do the same work. And if you need less insulin, then you will be storing less fat, right? So what are the ways with which we lower insulin resistance? I'm going to cover 3 ways right now. So the first way to reduce insulin resistance is to reduce the amount of time that insulin is present in your body. Okay, so if there are longer gaps where there is no insulin in your body, then that body gets desensitized to the amount of insulin. Okay, so intermittent fasting, the whole thesis and theory around intermittent fasting, the primary goal of intermittent fasting is to reduce insulin resistance. It's not about reducing calories. It's about having the same calories, but your body needing less insulin. So that again goes into how I went to US and I lost weight. I didn't reduce the calories that I had the same calories, but I had a lot lower insulin resistance. So the first way is to reduce the amount of time in which your body has insulin. So again, following the school of thought, if you look at having a lot of snacks throughout the day versus having 3 set meals or 2 big meals in a day, the fewer times that you have the meals will be better. Because every time you have a meal, you have insulin created in your body. And so every time that you keep repeating having a meal, you'll keep having insulin and your resistance will go higher. Okay, so for those of you who got very excited in part 1 that it's not about calories, here is the reality check, okay? In point 2 is also about the type of carbs that you eat, okay? So there are 2 types of carbs. There are simple carbs and there are complex carbs. Another way to do it is there are refined flours or there are whole grains. So let's just put it here. So what happens is that when you eat simple carbs, 2 things happen. One, it causes a big sugar spike. And that sugar spike means your body needs a lot of insulin all of a sudden, and that big dose of insulin will cause insulin resistance. When you eat complex carbs, they break down more slowly, they release glucose more slowly, so you won't get that spike. I'll give you an example. We often give red rice products instead of white rice. So in Indian items, we give idli. We give a red rice idli. In diabetics, it doesn't cause a sugar spike. We give a poha. We give a red rice poha versus white rice. And again, in diabetics, it doesn't cause sugar spikes. Things which cause sugar spikes, you'll be surprised to know, rusk biscuits, a lot of people eat because it's light and they think it's healthy, and it is maybe light, but it creates a crazy sugar spike. So what you want to do is you want to have complex carbs. So you want to have brown rice instead of white, mix some quinoa into your rice, have brown bread instead of white bread. You know the rule is don't have refined stuff. Don't have stuff out of a packet. I still have these lying around. Don't have this kind of stuff which is all refined. The second part is when you eat complex carbs, they break down a lot slower, and when they break down slower, you won't get hungry so fast, right? Because when you eat stuff like this, and I just made these videos, when you eat stuff like this has almost negligible fiber compared to real food. It'll go out of your system in no time, create a big sugar spike, and you'll be hungry in no time. So when you eat again, you're again creating the need for insulin. Okay, and these are going to create massive spikes. This one is a Tropicana Lychee Delight. It has 13.4 grams of sugar, which is about 20% more than a Coca-Cola. And this one has all kinds of stuff. Besides the invert sugar, it has all kinds of bad fats. So anyway, coming back to insulin, you want to try and eat complex carbs. That's going to help you a lot. And the last one is eating more balanced meals. And why do I say that? It's because of all the research that Indians particularly, and I think worldwide, we eat a lot of carbs. Especially if you're vegetarian, you're eating a lot of carbs. So we gotta eat more proteins and more fats and not just eat carbs. And I'll explain to you. So if you're having a roti, that's pure carbs. Or if you're having rice, that's pure carbs. Add to that a dal, which is primarily a carbohydrate. Yes, it has protein, but it is a lot of carbs. And then if you have potatoes with it, which is our favorite, dal, aloo, roti, that's our favorite meal combo, then all you're having is carbs. I was in Bombay recently at Bombay Airport, and they have these sandwiches vada pav. Okay, so it's potatoes, fried potatoes in a refined flour bun. That is terrible for you. It might be tasty. Have a bite, have 2 bites, drop it. And if you're having vada pav, have misal pav instead. But you want to reduce the amount of carbs that you're having and have a more balanced meal. I think that really applies to most of you. So something that I learned about carbohydrates in my readings, in US you've got a lot of beef, and there is grass-fed beef, and then there is the normal beef. So grass-fed beef is considered the healthier of the type of beef. It's on a farm, it's eating more natural stuff. But before they send the animal to slaughter, for 2 weeks, they will give it corn. And that's called marbling. So just to create marbles, that's called marbling. So they give the cow corn so that it develops a lot of fat in the body, and that will make that meat tastier. So now just imagine you as a human being eating a lot of carbs. You're creating marbling in your own body. A lot of times we have non-alcoholic fatty liver. That's marbling of your liver. So you want to eat a balanced meal. So coming back, this is a lot of stuff. If you have questions, put them in the comments. But you want to reduce the amount of insulin in your body. And that's going to happen by reducing the insulin resistance. You need less insulin to do the job. And you bring down resistance by reducing the amount of time that you've got insulin flowing through your veins. You reduce the amount of insulin being produced by changing your carbohydrates. And you eat a more balanced meal and cut down the amount of carbohydrates that you have. You do these things, and I promise you can cut down your gymming and you can have a flat stomach like me. And any feedback, I appreciate that. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you.